You've been trained to see influence as persuasion, as charm, as communication skill. That lie is the first cage. Influence is not what you do to others, it is where you stand relative to them. Position precedes action. Rank precedes voice. If you don't control the frame, your words are decorative noise. The battlefield is not moral. It never was. You were taught that honesty builds trust, that loyalty creates bonds, that good intentions attract allies. Those beliefs are civilian myths useful for keeping masses predictable. On the influence battlefield, virtue is exposure. Transparency is a wound. Loyalty is leverage held by someone else. Influence is a hierarchy operating in real time. Every room instantly sorts its participants. Not by intelligence, not by effort, by perceived power, risk, and replaceability. Before you speak, before you act, before you even sit down, your position is assessed. And once assigned, everything you do is interpreted through that rank. This is the lens shift. Stop asking how to influence. Start asking from where low-position individuals believe influence is earned through contribution. They explain more. They justify. They seek approval disguised as collaboration. High-position individuals understand influence is assumed, then defended. They speak less. They withhold. They allow others to orbit their silence. You felt this without naming it. The person everyone listens to doesn't talk the most. The one who can break rules without punishment isn't lucky. He's positioned. The room bends because it already decided to. The mistake you keep making is thinking effort can compensate for position. It cannot. Effort without leverage signals need. Need collapses influence. The more you try to prove value, the more you confirm your inferiority. This is why competence often loses to confidence backed by scarcity. This is why the most deserving are often invisible. Influence is not democratic. It's selective. It rewards those who understand that perception is reality long before truth is considered. The battlefield rewards restraint, not sincerity. Timing, not enthusiasm. Distance, not warmth. Look closer. Every interaction is a silent negotiation of dominance and submission. Who waits? Who initiates? Who explains? Who can afford to be misunderstood? These microsignals decide rank faster than words ever could. If you are always clarifying, you are already beneath. Reframing the battlefield means abandoning the hope of fairness. Fairness is a story told by those who need rules because they lack power. Power makes its own exceptions. Influence is the ability to exist as an exception. Once you accept this, something uncomfortable happens. Responsibility returns to you. No villains. No bad luck. No system to blame. If you are ignored, dismissed, or overridden, it is not because you are unseen, it is because your position grants others permission to do so. This is not pessimism. It is surgical clarity. From this lens, influence becomes measurable. Not in followers or compliments, but in consequences. Can you say no without punishment? Can you remain silent without being erased? Can you remove attention and cause anxiety? These are indicators of rank. Everything else is decoration. The battlefield does not care about your intentions. It only reacts to your positioning. And position is built through scarcity, unpredictability, and the quiet implication of cost. Until you see influence as terrain uneven, hostile, hierarchical, you will keep fighting imaginary wars with blunt tools. You will keep mistaking movement for progress and noise for power. This chapter does not make you stronger. It makes you awake. And awakening is painful because it strips you of comforting illusions. But illusions are expensive. They cost you leverage every day. From here forward, you stop asking, how do I persuade? You ask, What does my position allow me to do? Only then does real influence become possible. Influence does not run on words. It runs on pressure. Words are merely the sound pressure makes when it moves through a room. If you believe persuasion is linguistic, you will forever be outranked by men who say less and move outcomes anyway. The machinery of influence is built on asymmetry. Whoever needs less controls more. Need creates urgency. Urgency creates predictability. Predictability is exploitable. This is why the calmest person in any negotiation quietly dominates it. He has options. You have stakes. Understand this. Influence is not the ability to convince, it is the ability to withhold. Withhold approval. Withhold access. Withhold resolution. Most people rush to close, to clarify, to be understood. They relieve tension too early. They destroy their own leverage. Power sits in unresolved space. This is the first mechanism, control of relief. The one who can tolerate discomfort longer dictates terms. Silence is not absence. It is applied pressure. When you fill silence, you confess inferiority. When you let it expand, others project value onto you or reveal themselves trying to escape it. The second mechanism is perception dominance. Reality is secondary. What matters is the shared assumption of who matters. Influence flows toward whoever appears least affected by the outcome. This is why indifference outperforms enthusiasm. Enthusiasm advertises dependency. Indifference suggests abundance. Watch how hierarchies form. The person whose schedule is hardest to access is assumed important. The one who responds instantly is assumed available. Availability signals replaceability. Replaceability collapses influence. This is not cruelty. It is pattern. The third mechanism is leverage stacking. Influence compounds when multiple pressures converge. Social proof. Resource control. Information asymmetry. Risk tolerance. You don't need all of them, just more than the person across from you. Even a small imbalance, consistently applied, creates dominance over time. Most people make the fatal mistake of showing their leverage. They announce their value. They explain their importance. This neutralizes it. True leverage is felt, not displayed. It operates in the background, forcing others to adjust their behavior without knowing why. The fourth mechanism is frame ownership. Whoever defines the problem controls the solution. Low-position individuals argue inside frames they didn't choose. High-position individuals reject the premise entirely. They change the question. They don't debate, they reposition. If you find yourself defending, you are already losing. Defense accepts the other person's authority to judge you. Influence begins where justification ends. Then there is consequence control. Influence is proven by what happens after resistance. When you disagree, does the world punish you or adjust? Can you disappoint without retaliation? Can you enforce boundaries without explanation? These are not personality traits. They are indicators of embedded power. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Morality is often used as a weapon by those lacking leverage. Appeals to fairness, decency, or how things should be are last resorts. The machinery of influence responds only to cost-benefit calculations, not ethics. This is why manipulation works. Not because people are evil, but because the system rewards efficiency over virtue. Influence mechanisms evolved for survival, not goodness. Pretending otherwise is self-sabotage. Once you see the machinery, you stop personalizing outcomes. You stop asking why people don't respect you. Respect is not requested. It is conceded when pressure exists. Where there is no pressure, there is performance, but no power. The purpose of this chapter is not to make you manipulative. It is to make you literate. Illiteracy in power systems is punished relentlessly, quietly. You are either operating the machinery or you are inside it, being moved by forces you don't understand. Blaming personalities instead of structure. Influence is mechanical, cold, repeatable, and once you recognize its components, you can no longer unsee why certain men rise while others exhaust themselves trying. Influence is not a spectrum of personality. It is a ladder of function. Each rung grants different permissions, risks, and illusions. You do not choose your position by intention, you reveal it through behavior. The system assigns you where you belong, then dares you to notice. Position 1. The invisible. This is not weakness. It is non-existence. Your presence carries no consequence. You speak, nothing shifts. You leave, nothing changes. Invisibility is earned through over-agreement, over-availability, and the absence of boundaries. You are safe, which means you are irrelevant. Position 2, the utility. Here, you are valued, but only for output. You solve problems, absorb pressure, fill gaps. Your competence is rented, never respected. Utility is the most common trap for intelligent men. You are needed, but never deferred to. Needed men are replaceable. Deferred men are not. Position 3. The pleaser. You have influence, but only downward. You manage emotions, smooth conflicts, maintain harmony. People like you and ignore you. The pleaser mistakes access for power, but approval has no weight. The moment tension appears, you are sacrificed to restore comfort. Position 4. The technician. You possess rare skill or knowledge. This grants conditional leverage, but it is brittle. Your influence exists only within your specialty and only as long as you perform. The system tolerates you, studies you, and prepares your replacement. Expertise without opacity is a countdown. Position 5. The operator. Now the shift begins. You don't execute, you coordinate. You don't explain, you decide. Others wait for your signal. You are not the loudest, but your absence is noticed. Influence here comes from pattern recognition and controlled access. Still, you are watched. Position 6. The gatekeeper. You control flow. Information, opportunity, permission. Others must pass through you. Your power is structural, not personal. You are obeyed even when disliked. This is where influence becomes durable. Removal becomes costly. Resistance becomes risky. Position 7. The sovereign. This is not dominance through force. It is dominance through inevitability. The environment aligns around you. You are not challenged directly, only indirectly, through proxies. Your decisions reshape incentives. You are not popular. You are final. Here is the psychological trap. Most men misidentify their position. They confuse competence with authority, popularity with leverage, busyness with importance. The system does not reward effort, it rewards function. Notice the pattern. The higher the position, the less visible the work. The lower the position, the more noise required to justify existence. This is why loudness is often a signal of weakness. It compensates for lack of structural power. Another uncomfortable truth. Movement upward requires betrayal of your current identity. Each position has behaviors that anchor you there. The invisible stays agreeable. The utility over-delivers. The technician explains. These behaviors feel safe, but they lock you in place. No one promotes you out of usefulness. No one rescues you from pleaser status. The system does not correct misalignment. It exploits it. Your task is not to admire the ladder. It is to locate yourself on it without delusion, brutally, because every strategy that follows depends on accurate diagnosis. Misdiagnosis is fatal. If you think you're higher than you are, your actions will be punished. If you think you're lower than you are, your restraint will be misread as weakness. Precision matters. This chapter forces self-recognition. And self-recognition is painful because it strips excuses. Once you know your position, you can no longer hide behind intention. You either reposition or accept your function. Most will choose acceptance. It's quieter there. Influence is not cooperative. It is ecological. Every system, court, corporation, family, nation evolves predators, prey, and parasites. The mistake is believing you can opt out. You can't. Refusing to see the hunt does not remove you from it. It only ensures you're eaten without understanding why. Predation does not require malice. It requires awareness asymmetry. The one who sees the game exploits the one who believes in fairness. History makes this explicit. Courts were not ruled by the strongest knights, but by the quiet men who understood proximity to power, timing, and deniability. Those who spoke of honor were admired, then removed. Human nature has not evolved past this. It has simply disguised it better. Influence functions through selective pressure. Behaviors that produce results are reinforced. Behaviors that don't are culled. Loyalty without leverage is selected against. Transparency without protection is selected against. Trust without verification is selected against. The system is not cruel, it is efficient. Watch any organization under stress. When resources tighten, rhetoric disappears. Moral language collapses. What remains is raw hierarchy. Who decides? Who is protected? Who is expendable? Crisis does not change people, it reveals their rank. Predation appears in subtler forms now. Information hoarding, credit theft, manufactured dependency, reputation control. These are modern teeth. The kill is social, not physical, but the outcome is the same. Removal from relevance, from access, from future opportunity. Here is the threat most never see. Predators prefer compliant prey. Aggressive resistance is risky and noisy. Compliance is quiet and renewable. The agreeable are farmed. Their labor extracted. Their ideas repackaged. Their loyalty monetized. Then they are discarded when depleted. This is why being good so often ends in betrayal. Not because goodness is wrong, but because goodness without defense signals availability. It tells the system you can be taken from without cost. History rewards those who understand this early. Machiavelli did not invent cynicism, he documented reality. He observed that those who survived power did so by understanding appearances, alliances, and timing. Those who clung to virtue as identity were destroyed by those who used virtue as camouflage. Predation also explains why influence is zero-sum at higher levels. Two sovereigns cannot occupy the same territory indefinitely. One must yield, be absorbed, or be neutralized. This is why true power avoids public conflict. Open war invites unpredictable loss. Silent displacement is preferred. If you are rising, expect resistance disguised as concern. Advice that slows you. Praise that cages you. Opportunities that drain you. Predators do not always attack, they redirect. They keep you useful but contained. The danger is not the obvious enemy. It is the smiling superior who benefits from your stagnation. The mentor who delays your independence. The ally who needs you dependent. Influence predators often wear familiar faces. Understanding predation sharpens your instincts. You stop mistaking proximity for protection. You stop assuming shared values equal shared interests. You begin to map incentives instead of personalities. This chapter is meant to activate vigilance, not paranoia. There is a difference. Vigilance observes patterns over time. Paranoia reacts to shadows. Predators fear vigilance because it makes extraction expensive. Once you see influence as predation, you stop asking, "Why did they do this to me?" You ask, "What did my position allow them to do?" And once you ask that, the next step becomes unavoidable. Either you harden or you remain edible. Repositioning is not self-improvement. It is self-concealment followed by selective exposure. Those who try to rise loudly are cut down early. Those who move quietly are often mistaken for harmless until their absence creates instability. The first rule: stop advertising alignment. Opinions, morals, loyalties, these are handles others grab to steer you. When you declare who you are, you make yourself legible. Legibility invites management. Power prefers opacity. Be readable in output, not in intent. The second rule: reduce visible need. Need is the strongest downward signal in any hierarchy. It leaks through urgency, over-availability, emotional investment. You don't eliminate need, you camouflage it. You delay responses. You diversify dependencies. You ensure no single gatekeeper controls your survival. Then comes scarcity engineering. Scarcity is not absence. It is controlled access. You don't disappear, you narrow entry. Fewer meetings. Fewer explanations. Fewer promises. Each interaction becomes heavier because it is rarer. People value what they cannot freely consume. Next is leverage relocation. If your value is obvious, it is already priced in. Move your leverage upstream. Control inputs instead of outputs. Influence criteria instead of results. Become the person who decides what matters, not the one who executes what already does. This requires delayed gratification under provocation. You will be tested, ignored, slighted. This is not accidental. It is a calibration attempt. The system probes to see how you respond under pressure. Overreaction signals weakness. Compliance signals disposability. Calm refusal signals danger. Another shift. Stop correcting misperceptions immediately. Low-position individuals rush to clarify. High-position individuals allow misunderstanding to linger if correction costs leverage. Confusion can work for you. Let others underestimate. Overestimation attracts premature resistance. You must also master selective generosity. Total generosity empties you. Zero generosity isolates you. Strategic generosity binds. Give where it creates obligation upward or loyalty downward. Never give laterally without return. Lateral generosity is charity, not power. Repositioning demands patience because the environment resists change. Your old role will cling to you. People will remind you who you used to be. This is not nostalgia, it is enforcement. The system prefers you predictable. Do not argue with this. Drift instead. Miss expectations quietly. Decline without explanation. Become inconsistent with your former self. Consistency is admired in subordinates, not in sovereigns. Finally, accept temporary isolation. When you stop feeding a system, it goes silent before it goes hostile. That silence is where repositioning happens. Most retreat here, mistaking quiet for failure. It isn't. It's withdrawal of extraction. Strategic repositioning is not heroic. It is invisible. No applause. No announcement. Just a slow shift where others begin to adjust around you without being told to. By the time resistance becomes explicit, it is usually too late to stop you. That is the goal. This chapter arms you with behavior, not slogans. But behavior only matters if you are willing to abandon the comfort of your old identity. Which brings us to the final cost. You cannot carry your old identity into a higher position. It will betray you. Every identity is a contract. Predictable behaviors exchanged for acceptance. When you rise, that contract must be broken, quietly, completely. The first death is the honest self. Honesty feels virtuous because it simplifies decision-making. Say what you think. Reveal what you want. But simplicity is a luxury of the powerless. At higher levels, honesty becomes leakage. It gives others foresight. Foresight allows preemption. You do not lie, you ration truth. You decide who deserves clarity and who functions better in the dark. The second death is the loyal self. Loyalty is not abolished, it is redefined. Blind loyalty anchors you downward. Selective loyalty preserves mobility. You stop pledging allegiance to people. You align with trajectories. When trajectories diverge, you detach without drama. Drama signals moral conflict. Detachment signals calculation. Next dies the consistent self. Consistency is praised because it makes behavior predictable. Predictability is exploitable. You replace consistency with coherence. Your actions align with long-term positioning, not short-term expectations. To observers, you appear contradictory. In reality, you are directional. Then comes the likable self. Likability trades power for comfort. It invites access you cannot afford. It burdens you with emotional maintenance. At higher ranks, respect matters more than affection. You allow distance. Distance filters entitlement. Those who demand closeness are revealing dependency. This identity death feels like loss because it is. You lose mirrors. Familiar reactions. Immediate validation. The environment goes quiet. People hesitate. They test. This is the threshold most retreat from. They resurrect their old self to restore warmth. Do not. Replacement begins with the unreadable self. You speak less, observe more. You let others reveal priorities while you remain undefined. Ambiguity becomes armor. People project what they want onto you and adjust their behavior accordingly. Then emerges the sovereign self. Not loud, not dominant, final. Decisions become fewer but heavier. You stop reacting to urgency that isn't yours. You move on your timeline. Time control is ultimate control. Finally, the expendable illusion dies. You structure your life so removal costs more than retention. Knowledge is distributed unevenly. Relationships are layered. No single node holds you hostage. You are no longer easily replaced nor easily punished. This is not transformation. It is subtraction. You remove traits that served survival at lower levels but sabotage ascent. What remains is not kinder or crueler, it is effective. The price is real. Some doors close. Some alliances decay. Some people will call you cold. They are correct. Cold things endure pressure without defo or ming. At this stage, influence no longer feels like effort. The environment adapts before you speak. Resistance reroutes. You become a reference point rather than a participant. Most will never reach this because identity death feels like betrayal of self. It is not. It is betrayal of a role that was never rewarded. This chapter completes the internal shift. What remains is a final sorting.